Hello, everybody. This is Jennifer Fanning with Home Buyer Hotspot. And I am here today with Lucia, who is a realtor. And she's not just a realtor, but she is an expert in her field. And so we're going to go through what the home buying process looks like when you are finished getting your pre-approval from me. And I didn't introduce myself as far as what I do. I am a mortgage lender with Cross Country Mortgage. And so, Lucy, tell us about yourself.
Hello, everyone. And Jennifer used my government name. You could just
Well,
call
that's
me
what's on the screen.
Lucy. Lucy is just fine. So I am Lucy Ike with Take Action Properties, and I am a local realtor right here in Palm Coast. But before real estate, I spent many years working in retail. And that's where I built my skills in customer service, problem solving, and really listening to what people need. So retail taught me how to handle fast-paced environment, pay attention to detail, and then most importantly, how to create a positive experience for every customer. And that experience with retail really transfer and translate perfectly into real estate. Whether the customer is buying or selling a home, it's one of the biggest decisions someone is going to make. And just like oh my gosh,
It's
blah,
okay.
blah, retail, it's not about pushing a product, but it's about understanding the person, guiding them through the options, and making sure that they are supported every single way, every single
Okay.
step of the way.
Awesome. So what would you say is the first step? So they've met with me, the mortgage loan originator. I've pre-approved them. I've sent you the pre-approval. And so what's your first step then that you take with your clients?
My first step would be setting that initial consultation, that buyer consultation, and then I would be making a phone call to you as well.
Okay.
Which, or unless you already made that call to me
Yeah.
to kind of give me an idea of what I'm working with, whether I need concessions, that max where they feel comfortable, and then I would have that initial consultation with the customer. And I will go over my buyer guide, which kind of walks them through every single step of the process from the pre-approval to sitting down with me to kind of go over their goals.
Okay.
So, because a lot of the times, they get pre-approved for certain amounts, but they feel comfortable spending a little bit less to feel more
100%.
comfortable with that mortgage payment. So once we have the pre-approval, we'll sit down, kind of talk over the budget, what's important to them, what are the must-have, and then we kind of figure out, where to start based on all the information they've given me.
Awesome. So what would you say is the biggest misconception that you run across with buyers? When they come to you after they have their pre-approval, like what do you think the biggest misconception is?
Well, most people think with that pre-approval is like they're ready to just go buy the house. Like, let's just go put in that offer. They need to remember too that there's other processes that along the way, you're going to have your inspection, your appraisal. There's just so much that there's so many steps in the process. And there's going to be some expenses out of pocket that they don't realize that they need to spend upfront, like the inspection that they will need.
Correct. And I know that I don't disclose. I always go over numbers like closing cost numbers, but I tell people you're going to have to pay for an inspection. I don't know how much that is because it depends on who you use, what kind of inspections you want. You might want a mold inspection and that's more money because you're allergic to mold. There's all kinds of different things in there. So I'm glad that you cover that with clients just so that they know what to expect. I was talking to somebody yesterday and she's VA. And so she was
Oh,
like, and I asked her, I said, well, how much money do you have to buy? She's like, I don't need any. I'm a veteran. And I was like, well,
hold on.
that's partially true. Like you don't need a down payment, but there's still closing costs and we can ask the seller to pay the closing costs. And so that's great. However, you still have to put deposit money down as a good faith telling the seller that you're serious, and she didn't have that. And so I did some kind of troubleshooting with her as to how she could get that.
And I'm glad that you mentioned VA loan because with VA loan, our veterans, they do think that way that they don't need any money, but you will need money for that inspection. And the
Yes.
VA requires additional inspection, like your WBO inspection, which is not very expensive, but it's required and it just adds to the cost of that inspection.
Correct. Correct. Absolutely. So you were talking about your home buyer guide and so wanting to get a feel for your buyers. So how do you help them prioritize what it is? Because like, let's face it, every time I bought a house, my list of what I want is really long. And then like reality kind of sets in based on what I'm really willing to pay. So how do you kind of maneuver people through that process?
So it's, first is again the budget, and then it's gonna be your must have
Yes.
versus it would be nice to have. Like, and the must have, sometimes you still gotta set expectations
Hmm.
to where maybe, maybe we found the right home, it checks all the boxes except one. Are you willing to compromise just because we didn't check that one box? So yeah, it's just kind of going over that, there are some things that they can change, like location. So if they fall in love with this home in the perfect location, but there's a few items that doesn't check the boxes, can they live with that? Is this their forever home? Are you going to live here maybe for the next 5 years where you could just make it your own for now? And then eventually you'll be moving out to hopefully your forever home.
Right. I mean, do you feel like many people even really live in their forever home? In my mind, I mean, I've owned 12 houses in 30 years. So in my mind, I'm like, is it really a forever home? Maybe for some people.
Yeah, I have not met someone, I actually had a customer that says, I'm hoping to find my forever home. And
Okay.
then they're hoping. They use the word hoping. So they're
Yeah.
already going in with that mentality that it might not be their forever home. So
Yeah.
I have not yet helped someone that they're looking for their forever home. They're just looking for either first time home buyer, they're looking for their home now so they could build equity and
Hmm.
work towards their forever home. Or a lot of snowbirds that
Hmm.
are just here with their second home,
Yes.
or
Yeah. There's
their
a
or
lot
they
of
don't
that in
know if
Florida.
Florida is gonna be the place that they want to be. So they're just testing the waters.
Correct.
But yeah, so this, the must have versus the nice to have. And what truly is important to them. Is it something that you could live with? Or if you're gonna be there long term, if it's not gonna be something that could work for you, then we just keep looking. But the most important thing is the timeline. If we have a timeline that we're working where we need to get you in a home in less than 60 days, then that's when we really need to not be, I guess, I don't want to use the word picky, but we have to be realistic.
Right. And open, right? Open to the different options that are available. Cause let's face it, that inventory changes all the time. So something that was
Yes.
available a month ago might not be available now. And so you're right. If you're working within a timeline, then there might be more concessions that the buyer has to make. So do you ever okay, this is going to sound like a weird question. I was watching this program the other night that was talking about this realtor who took someone into a house and there was all these cameras. So do you warn like that's kind of a new thing, I think, so like you go inside a house and home sellers have all these cameras. What's up with that and how do you navigate that with your buyers?
So
Cuz
I have
I'm
that.
a big mouth. I'd be going in there being like, "Oh, I don't like this."
Yeah. So usually I let my buyers know way in advance. I give them the heads up, like, hey, we are going to go to homes that are either have cameras or is owner occupied, meaning that they're most likely there's Alexa, there's something listening or
Right.
watching. And I just always tell them, be respectful.
Mhm.
If it's keep your comments to yourself, if it's not positive. And once we finish our tour and we get to a safe location, and you could just tell me all
Away
the
from the
things that
Ring doorbell.
yes, you can just tell me anything that you dislike, and then we could have that conversation. Some people are hard. They just like to talk, and they're just gonna talk, and that's okay. And
That
that's
would
okay.
that would be me. The last time I bought a house, it was down south, so it wasn't in this area, and my realtor looked at me and he was like, "Don't screw up my negotiation abilities."
Yes, and that's exactly because it could definitely mess up the negotiations because they're probably listing or they're going to go back and whether it's good or bad, whether you go in there and say like, oh, I must have this house. This is it. You're messing up my negotiation because now the sellers know that you really want this house. So
Exactly, exactly. There's a lot of people management in your job, right? Where, you're helping guide the buyer. You don't want to give away too much information to the listing agent, to the seller.
yeah.
So, can you walk us through then what happens? So, once they find the house, once they love the house, how do you prepare for a strong offer? What do you do with your buyers to prepare a strong offer?
So the first thing I'll do is look at the home, look at the comps, see what things are selling in the area. Is the home priced correctly? And then also I consider whether I need to ask for seller's concessions. Because if the home is priced correctly, but we need to ask for seller's concession, then we don't want to go too low to where we're not going to win that offer. So it's like, if you really want this home, let's make a strong offer. That
Yes.
doesn't mean let's ask above list price. That's not what I'm saying. But what I'm saying is we just want to make sure that we're offering market value while also asking for those concessions. But it is a buyer's market right now. Sellers are paying concessions and homes are actually priced really well right now.
That's what I have been noticing. Most of my contracts right now all of them have seller's concessions. And I guess for those of you who don't know what seller's concessions are, it's where the seller gives money back towards closing costs. So then there's less out of pocket for the buyer, and different loan types have different rules around how much that can be. And that's why Lucy and I talk ahead of time. So then that way everybody is on the same page as to how much can be asked for, if any at all. And then we don't run into any problems.
So one more thing too with the offer is not just about numbers too, Jennifer. We also want to think about the terms. Because sometimes maybe the seller needs more time to move out, or maybe they need to move fast. They want a faster inspection period. They want a faster closing. So sometimes the terms do make a difference. The last closing that I had, the home was priced great. I did a comp analysis and I noticed that it was actually priced below market price.
Good.
And I was like, oh my gosh, this home is completely updated and is priced below market value. And it was a multiple offer situation,
I'm sure
which
it was.
again is unheard of in this market. But my offer won because of the terms. I was able to
Okay.
do an aggressive inspection period, an aggressive closing day and closing date, and that's was appealing to the sellers. And I was still able to negotiate 3% seller's concession for my buyer. And at the end, he went in with equity. And that's what I mean, that I pull the comps to make sure that it's priced correctly. Because, some people think like, oh, like, I don't want to pay list price. But that home was already $20,000 less below market value.
I had that conversation with someone earlier today, a friend of mine that's buying in Sarasota, and she sent me a house and she's like, they only want 200,000. And I went on Property Appraiser and I'm like, even Property Appraiser says that it's like 400.
Yeah.
I'm like, it's not going to go for 200,000. I said, talk to your realtor. You need to offer more than 200,000 if you really want that house.
Yes, correct. If it's worth it and you really want it, then yes, I'll make a strong offer.
Yep, absolutely. How do you then, so you were talking about making terms that are appealing to the seller. How do you find that out? I mean, do you know lots of other realtors to where it's easy for you to pick up the phone and just chit chat, or like, what
Yeah,
do you do?
so I'm really glad that you asked that question. So anytime my buyers is ready to make an offer, I do call the listing agent and I do ask what's important to the seller.
Well, that's
That's
good.
always my first question. It's like, hey, I have a buyer that's interested. What is important to your seller so I could put this deal together? Because
Awesome.
now we're thinking about the sellers and that would make a strong offer. And that's how I knew that the seller wanted a faster closing and I was able to make a stronger offer.
Awesome. That's good. That's great. So let's see. So what advice do you give if the inspection uncovers some sort of issue? Like, how do you navigate that? Because I know that I've had inspections on homes that I've bought in the past, especially when we were living in upstate
I'm like
New York.
getting ready for this one.
We were buying houses that were 1800s, like from the 1800s. And so I
Yeah.
remember the first inspection we got, and it was like this thick. There were so many things. Now, my husband was a home builder for years when he was younger, and so we have the ability to fix things, but still you get that report and you're like, oh my gosh, the house is falling in. So how do you take the buyers from this vibration of freaking out to seeing like, that a lot of this stuff is just normal stuff? What do
The
you do?
first thing is I tell them don't panic.
Okay.
Even going into the inspection, I tell them the inspector's job is to find absolutely everything, even a little crack, a little scratch. Everything is going to be on the report. So don't let the thickness of the report scare you. We want to focus on things that are going to be a major issue, that might be a safety hazard. The most important components, obviously, your HVAC, your plumbing, electrical, and your roof. We really want to focus if there's any foundation issues. So we don't want to focus on the cosmetic things because you're probably going to go in and paint anyways. You're probably going to go in and put new flooring anyway. So we want to focus on the really high ticketed items. And going back to the VA loan, if it's a VA loan and with the WDO, if there's any wood rot, then we will also need to get that repaired because we need that for the loan to get approved.
That's right. Yeah, the appraiser will call that. I just closed a VA loan a few weeks ago, and it was up in North Carolina, and way up high up in the fascia, there was just a little
Yeah.
bit of peeling paint, and it looked like it was potentially had some wood rot. And so the appraiser took pictures of it. They didn't call it in the inspection because I'm assuming the inspector probably thought it really didn't have any sort of rot in it. So there was nothing in the inspection report. But when the appraiser went out, the appraiser was the one that called it and the seller had to fix it.
With that too, and I'm going to backtrack a little bit. When I'm touring homes and I know it's a VA loan, I actually look for wood rot. That's like the main thing I do. And if I could physically see the wood rot or feel it, I even let the listing agents know in advance. I'm like, hey, you're offering a VA loan, but I see wood rot. Are your sellers going to be willing to repair this before we
That's
even
smart.
move forward with an offer? Because a lot of the times, some people don't know that
Mhm.
could make or break a VA loan.
Yeah, and I feel like buyers or sellers don't look at their homes in the eyes of a buyer or in the eyes of an appraiser or a bank, because we live in these places and so we see what we see. And I think sometimes we don't see a lot of things when we're living
Yeah.
in a house. Matter of fact, I always laugh at myself because every time we get ready to sell a house, I go through everything with a fine tooth comb, trying to think like a buyer because I'm in the industry. And I'm like, why
Yeah.
don't I do these things for myself? I always do these things before I sell my house. Why do I make my house look so good right before I sell it? That's stupid. I should make it look good for me.
Yes. Make it look good for you right now. And then it'll just be ready when you're ready to sell.
Exactly. What is the typical timeline? Like you were talking about terms of your contract and stuff and how you always try to find out what the seller is really wanting. So what is kind of the typical, just so that our listeners know, what's the typical timeline then from the time that they make an offer and it gets accepted until it closes? And what are kind of those little steps in between?
So the timeline from when we make an offer to closing, it could be anywhere between 30 to 45 days. Let me just once our offer is accepted and it's 30 days closing, we could take 3-4 days negotiating, sometimes it's less.
I agree.
But then once our offer is accepted, then you're going to have your timeline starts immediately, and it includes the weekend. So it's kind of like it's just continuous days. So you're going to have 3 days or 5 days, whatever we negotiated for your escrow deposit to, make that deposit, your good faith money. And then depending on the inspection period as well, right now, 10 days is normal inspection period. So
Which
you
is
have
beautiful.
it's great. Yeah,
Yeah.
so you have 10 days to schedule your inspection, get your inspection back, go over the inspection and negotiate with the seller if there's any items that needs attention. 10 days is more than enough time.
Yes, I would agree. And then, so, I mean, I know the answer to this, but I'm going to ask it to you just so that our audience knows. So during that 10-day inspection window, can they get out of it for any reason? Like what happens if they find stuff that they don't like and it can't be negotiated? What happens?
Absolutely. So those are the 10 days that we also call their due diligence period.
Okay.
So if they have the inspection and there's just too many things that they can't live with, they're like, there's just no way, I don't want the headache, then yes, we can back out. We could do a release and cancellation and you will get your escrow back. As long as you do it with your due diligence period. Once you go past the due diligence period, then, there's a
It's an
different
issue.
story.
Yeah,
It's a
that's
little bit more complicated than that.
it is a lot more complicated than that.
Yes. So try to do, and that's what we like. This is your due diligence time. We have 10 days, and not just me as your realtor helping you and guiding you through the inspection period, but then you could also do research in the neighborhood. You could maybe, drive, and something you should have probably done before, drive at night. Do you love the neighborhood at night? Like, how are the neighbors? Maybe you haven't even seen the neighbors at all. Are they always quiet? So yeah, that's your 10 days to figure everything out.
Awesome. That's great. With 30 days to closing, I mean, that's typically what I see. A lot of times I see for favorable terms that the realtors will shorten up the loan approval time, which is good because then that way it's kind of a done deal. It gives the buyer less opportunities to get out of the contract by doing that, which is good. So can you tell me what a common mistake that buyers make after the pre-approval that others can avoid? So
Oh
what do
my
you
God.
see that people do that's kind of on the side of, what were you thinking?
And this is one of the pages and I'm going to apologize. You might hear my dogs. They're getting
I cannot
playful
hear
back
them.
there.
Nope, I
Okay,
can't hear
great.
them.
Okay. So what not to do during the home buying process. And
Yes,
this is extremely important if you're listening. Do not buy or lease a car.
please.
Do not change jobs.
Nope.
And I'll let you touch on that about the jobs thing, but do not miss a bill payment. Do not
Mhm.
open a credit card. Do not move any money around
Nope.
and do not make any major purchases.
Correct. Unless it's cash, but don't use the cash you need to close with. I had that happen once.
Do not do that either.
Don't use your credit cards for big purchases. These were people that were pretty tight, in the home buying, what their cash to close was, and they were first time home buyers. And I said, everything was tight. The debt to income ratio was tight. How much money they had to buy was tight. The whole thing was tight. And they went and they were like, hey, we didn't use a credit card. We didn't apply for that credit card for that new couch. It's going to look so great in the new house. And I'm like, oh, yay, good for you. And then I was like, so how'd you buy it? We used our cash. I'm like, oh, good. So you saved more money than what I knew you had, right? Because your cash to close hasn't changed from when we, first disclosed your file to you once you went under contract. And the guy was like, I didn't think about that. And so then we had to scramble. Thankfully, his mom was able to give a gift.
So I understand the excitement. I do get it. It's
I
like
do
you're
too.
getting a new home, you're
Yeah.
buying new furniture, but just wait. Wait until all the documents are signed. Wait
Yeah.
until your realtor gives you the key to the
Keys.
house, and then do whatever you want.
Yes,
Do whatever
exactly.
you want.
Exactly. Now, I can say that you can change jobs, but here's the caveat. You need to discuss that with your loan officer prior to ever doing it. And it needs to be like job for like job. So if you're currently a nurse, you can't decide to quit nursing and go wait tables because it's not same. It's not even paid the same. Waiting tables is tip income. Some people make great money. I've done some loans for some
Yes.
waiters that make fabulous money,
I
probably
just met
more than the nurse.
someone. Yes.
Yes.
I met someone that he told me what he makes a year, and I was like, I'm in the wrong field.
Yeah, if you're good, those people make great money. They work really
Yeah.
hard, but they make some great money. And so you want to make sure that it's within the same field. So, down in Florida, we get lots of people that are transitioning to Florida from New York or other northern states. And so oftentimes they're either transferring within their companies for the same job or they're getting a new job down here. So if you're one of those people, what we do is we tell you to get a letter from your new job that says how you are paid, how much you are going to be paid, and then we ask that you have one pay stub prior to closing.
Nice.
So sometimes we can get exceptions for the one pay stub depending on what your career is and how you're paid and stuff. But that would be definitely, if you plan on changing your jobs in the middle of this, you need to talk to your loan officer first. And if it's just a preference, you need to suck
100%.
it up until you're done.
Correct. 100%.
Someone she didn't tell me this, but she was planning on retiring as soon as she got her loan. And so we went through the whole process. And then like 10 days after her loan closed, Fannie Mae, Freddie Mac, VA, they can do kind of like checks on loans that recently closed where they want to go back and make sure that like the people are really working there and all that kind of stuff, even though we did our due diligence. So my loan file for her got flagged. And so they went back and wanted another verification of employment verbally from her boss. And so I called her and I'm like, hey, XYZ, just to let you know, we're going to contact your work again. Not a big deal. Like the file, they just randomly pull files to check, which they do. And she was
No.
like, Jennifer, I quit my job. She's like, I quit my job 2 days after we closed. And I was like, okay. So I went to my boss and I'm like, well, there's nothing that can be done, right? Like what happens? And he was like, well, all we have to do is verify that she was working there the day that we closed. And I'm like, okay. So that's what the verification was to make sure of. He's like, we can't control what people do and don't do, once they close, but I was freaking out.
Yeah. So as long as they quit after, like they're still actively in that company that day that they close.
Yes.
My
yes.
God.
I don't advise people to do that, but I mean,
No.
these people were fine. They were buying a generational house where mom and dad were moving in with the son and his wife and new babies. So they had bought a big generational home. And so there's really 4 incomes in that house. So I knew they were all going to be fine. Nobody wasn't going to not be making the payment, but
Yeah. Wow. That's scary.
I panicked a little bit.
That is a little bit scary.
So as we wrap up here, if you could give one piece of advice to buyers that are just starting out the journey, so brand new to real estate, what is it that you would tell them?
Get educated,
Okay.
and like what the process looks like. Interview different realtors and pick one that you actually connect with really well.
Yes.
And and maybe have even something in common with you, whether it's giving back to the community, they're active, they're CrossFit or whatever it is. And it's like it's making a huge purchase. This is like the biggest purchase of your life. Just do some
Yes.
homework. Definitely just do
I
some homework.
100% agree. And I really think that choosing a realtor, first of all, that knows the business, can negotiate, and
Yeah.
definitely someone that you have something in common with, because you end up spending a lot of time with your buyers, right?
Correct. Yes, I do. Even after the fact, I always tell them I'm your realtor for life because you're always going to hear from me. I'm always going to check in. Maybe not weekly, or sometimes I'll go a few weeks, but I will check in on you or send you a little card. But yeah, just definitely do your homework and hire someone that's going to be on your side. That's always going to be there for you.
For someone who's listening and they're watching this and like, I like Lucy and I want to live in the Palm Coast area or Flagler County in Florida, how do people get a hold of you?
So you can find me on any of the social media platform under
Okay.
Lucy I'm Home FL.
Okay.
Instagram is probably my biggest platform, and then it will guide you to follow me on Facebook. You could text me or call me at 518-265-0039. Send me an email, lucyimhomefl@gmail.com.
I love
And
that.
just just throw this out there just so you know, with every home that I
Mhm.
sell, I do donate to the Flagler Humane Society. And
Aw,
whether it's sponsoring an event, an adoptable dog, or just whatever they need at the time, let them like, hey, I just closed. What do you need?
right.
And then I get it for them. So I'm
Awesome. I
very
love that.
active in the community.
I love that. So if there's dog owners out there or cat owners that need to buy a house for their animal, it's not for the people, it's for the animals.
It's for the animals, the
It's
big
for the animals.
backyard, the
Yes,
fenced in yard.
that's right. That's right. It's for the animals. Then you should call Lucy because she's got you covered and then she'll donate.
Yeah.
Yeah, she'll
Yes.
donate money. So this was great. Do you have anything else that you wanted to say or anything before we wrap the show up?
No, thank you so much for inviting me, and I'm looking forward to doing more in the future.
Absolutely. So thank you for listening. And my name is Jennifer Fanning. And my logo is Don't Get Ducked by Another Lender. And I work with Cross Country Mortgage. And my phone number is 561-295-2005. You can text or call that number. So if you need a pre-approval, if you're looking at getting into the real estate game, whether it be your first home purchase or you're upgrading your homes, Lucy and I would love to help you.
Yes.
And don't forget to like, subscribe, and comment because that helps push our information out to other people. And if you want more content like this, then you'll be notified when we upload it. So,
Yes.
all right, everybody, have a great day. Thank you,
All right.
Lucy.
Thank you. Bye.
Bye.